America, how are you? Welcome to Let's Talk Vets Talk, coming to you from HC Media Studios here in the historic and ever so beautiful city of Haverhill, Massachusetts. I'm your host, Stephen Differ, and today we're doing Operation Peer Support. And helping to brief us on that operation is the highly touted James Davis. James Davis is a United States naval veteran as well as a merchant marine. Jim has had a wonderful career sailing the seven seas and then some, and his life skills has brought him back here to Haverhill, Massachusetts, and he's going to tell us his story and go on and how he's helping all our veterans here in the Merrimack Valley and beyond. Jim, welcome home and welcome to the show. We thank you very much. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what's going on in your life and how you made it back here to Haverhill?
Well, thanks for having me, Steve.
Sure.
I'm originally from Groveland, right next door, and I enlisted here in Haverhill when the recruiting office was right in the post office. And I was 18 years old. I went to boot camp in San Diego, and I got on an aircraft carrier in California that was on a world cruise. And about 12 months later, ended up in Norfolk, Virginia. That was my first cruise. And I stayed on that ship for 3.5 years. And at my very last at sea, it was what I would call the beginning of the War on Terror. It was April of '86, and we bombed Libya in retaliation for some things that Gaddafi had done to some American servicemen on liberty. And I call that the beginning of the War on Terror. And it kind of put me in a unique place, thinking back. My Navy chief was a Korea War veteran. I went in 7 years after Vietnam, and a lot of guys I sailed with were Vietnam veterans. And then it put me, right at the beginning of the war on terror. And so it put me in a unique place for today, where I can relate and identify to a lot of different eras of veterans that come to the Northeast Veterans Outreach Center where I work today. I turned to the outreach a few years ago when I was going through some difficulties, and they really helped me out. Not only did they help get me back on my feet, but they got me up and running. And my experience there has been great. And I ended up going to school for human services with a focus on drug and alcohol. And I came to the conclusion that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in a position where I could help some of these younger veterans coming back, because when the Gulf War broke out, I had my merchant marine ticket, and I went back over as a civilian and back to sea. And that was quite an experience. And then, life happened, things happened, and like I said, I ended up at the outreach, and they helped me out, and now I'm in a position to help out others.
So you grew up locally in Merrimack Valley. Mm-hmm. You joined the service, became a world traveler, and as you said, you were in your time in the service was when chaos was about us. So now you're in a position where when the young folks come back, you have a little bit of knowledge of what they're going through just from your own experience. Is that correct?
Yeah, it put me in a unique position. And I used to work in the trades. When I was in the Navy, I was an electrician on board the carrier that I served on. And I worked in the trades for years, and someone suggested at the outreach, we have some funds left over for educational services. There's always something going on at the outreach, different programs. And I'm involved right now in assisting and administering different programs under the direction of the executive director and his assistant. And we always have something different going on. I would encourage anybody who's a veteran in this community, if they're a little lost or if they're struggling, to come on up, stop by, check us out, and see if there's anything we can do for you, we will.
And if they're not lost, to come and check you out to help out with the other ones who are, correct?
That's another good point. Yeah, we encourage people to come up and check us out that want to help as volunteers. Most veterans don't require veteran services. Most veterans are happy, helpful, productive, useful members of society, and don't even need veteran services or even the benefit of the VA for that matter. And a lot of our donors and contributors are veterans.
Yes.
But the ones that do, the VA is there for them, and the outreach is there for them.
Locally.
Now,
in the Navy, where'd you go? How long were you in the Navy? Where'd you go around the Navy? Where'd you go around the world?
I did a 4-year hitch, and like I said, my first cruise was a world cruise, and we went all over the Far East.
Japan, Korea, all that stuff?
All that, and through the Suez Canal.
Did you?
Yep, and you know, we hit a lot of European ports, another Atlantic crossing, and then we were in the shipyard for a while, and we went back and did another Mediterranean cruise.
So just as a Navy guy, you got a lot of lived experiences that you didn't even know you were going to rely on years later, right? You just living the dream, right? You're going around doing stuff, right?
Well, you join for the, you know, for the adventure and the travel.
Yeah,
you
as
want
they
to see the
say.
world, and you do. And it's a great experience coming from the Merrimack Valley. I love this little corner of the earth.
Sure, it's beautiful here.
I think it's a great place to live and be from. But it's very humbling when you get a chance to go to some third world countries
And see what goes on, right?
Just what it's like in other parts of the world where people are just living day to day.
Now, how long were you in the Merchant Marines for?
I sailed off and on for about 7 years.
You've been around the world and
And-
back doing different things as well.
I did oceanographic survey,
Yeah.
which was great. That took us to some really far out places. Went all the way up to the polar ice cap. Some very interesting ports, and just the mission each time going out was different. We'd be mapping or deep sea coring, and then I did a little bit of everything. I did freighters, I did coastwise tankers, and it was.
Well, that's quite interesting. So now you come all the way back here to Haverhill, Massachusetts, correct? Is that where you came back to, or did you go elsewhere?
This is home.
This is home, so you come back home, your feet are back on the floor. You know, the terrain here is very hilly and rolly. We got beautiful trees. It's a wonderful place to live. What have you done to get to the point you're at now? What brought you to ask for help? What brought you to that point a couple of years ago where you came in and said, you know, my life, I need some guidance or whatever
Well,
your choice was?
You know, just through a series of unfortunate events, mostly of my own doing, I ended up, you know, almost destitute, and I turned to the outreach.
And you got the help you needed,
for
or
help.
guidance in the
And,
beginning.
I got housing, I got guidance, I got, you know, food, services.
Sure. You're enrolled in school?
And at their suggestion, yeah, there was a program that they had where there's a little bit of money left over, and someone suggested, hey, Jim, why don't you take a class? And I went to Northern Essex Community College, and there's always a veterans representative stationed there in the office, and I met with him, and I enrolled in one class in the summer, and I just in that fall I continued. And it took me 3 years to get a 2-year degree, but
Yeah, hey.
but I got it, and it was worth it. It was a great experience.
And what was your degree in?
Human Services with a focus in drug and alcohol, which is really helpful in working with veterans, because a lot of veterans who are, you know, we deal with guys with, you know, drug, alcohol, post-traumatic stress, depression, and sometimes it just gets compounded
Yeah.
with drug and alcohol. And if we can, you know, sometimes just work on that component and remove that, it just gives guys a better opportunity to move forward.
So now that you graduated school, you actually got a job doing what you went to school for, because we know some people go to school and they actually don't get the job that they're trying to do. So you had a dream, and your dream was to go to school, and when you get done with your dream of going to school, that you were going to try to help folks. It actually is coming true. Is that not so?
Well, yeah, that was, you know, that's why I went to school, because I wanted to be in a position where I could help the guys coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. And like
There's a bunch of them.
Right, and like I said, from my experience, from my Navy chief to being a Korea War veteran all the way up, what I see at the outreach, I see guys from WW2,
Yeah.
Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan, and you know we're all veterans, and whether you you know, as long as you have that status, to me, it's secondary. You qualify to work with us, and we just root for everybody, no matter what their service was or how long they served. If they qualify, we can't help everybody, but
Sure.
that's the agency where I work, and that's the population that I work with. And
Now, you also told me a story earlier that some people that you help aren't really despondent. They're not really sad and lonely. They were the Veterans Northeast Outreach Center is the old St. Rita's Church, and there's some people that got married there all them years ago who are veterans that come up just because it's part of their life and home, and they walk in the door and you greet them and do stuff. Why don't you tell us about some of them folks?
right, I happened to see those folks this morning. I'm always happy to see them. In addition, whenever I see anybody from the old St. Rita's Parish, I'm always happy to tell them that we're truly still doing God's work in
Yeah.
that building. Over the Thanksgiving week, we gave out about 60 turkey dinners.
Wonderful.
Most of which were donated to us that we just kind of redistributed. But people were very generous. And I'm always happy to tell the people from St. Rita's Parish that we are doing God's work up there. My girlfriend's parents got married there as well.
Really?
And I think of them and her family. And it's a special place. We still maintain some of the historic artwork, the stained glass and stuff like that, even though we're going through a little bit of a construction phase. That's something our director made certain to the people of the parish that we would maintain as much of that as we could, and we have. And it's still beautiful up there.
It sure is. Now, one of the things I know is I'm a client of the services as well. And I was one of the ones that got the turkey basket. We sat at home in my home and cooked one of those dinners. That was a wonderful day for me. I received benefits from the Veterans Northeast Outreach Center. I'm a beneficiary of the VA healthcare system as well locally as Veteran Services. I'm a disabled veteran, but I try not to live my life as so, even though my disability gets in my way sometimes. Particularly when it's slippery weather outside, it's compounded more. I noticed that some of the other veterans, and very similar to me, who are ambulatory but have issues to get to and from, transportation issues. I have heard that some of those guys give you a call and out of the blue you make sure he gets an appointment made, or certain things happen every now and then that you make sure that that veteran makes that appointment. And that's a thank you very much, because I know that when some people are stuck and they're really sad and lonely and they can't get it done and they feel like nobody cares, that you have a rapport with a handful of veterans that can call you and you're right there for them. That's a great thing, Jimmy. We're so proud that a local person is actually doing some of that. So I have to say that through the fulfillment process of the daydreaming we've all done, that we have, like you said, there's not everybody, all the veterans are sad and lonely. Some of them have issues, and those who have issues, like myself, locally we can go up to the Veterans Northeast Outreach Center. And there's a myriad of programs to help whatever situation you're in. Some family, some individual, some marital. We understand that there's a food pantry that you help with. We understand that there's a soup kitchen on food pantry days that you help with snacks and coffee, and that the folks come in and they get welcomed. And when they come in and they feel welcomed, and the hall's not just empty, and you're there to greet them, do you believe that makes them come back again because they feel more comfortable, like they're not just walking into a strange place, that there's a face in there that can give them encouragement? Do you believe that to be more true than the I'll talk to you later program?
Well, I think once people become associated with the outreach, they often come back, whether they're a client or somebody that wants to donate or help. We're always happy to get donations and volunteers. Like I said, during the Thanksgiving week, people were so generous. It was really humbling to see that. And sometimes we get too much of certain things, and people say, "What do you need? You know, what do you need?" And I suggest that you call the front desk or stop by and say, you know, what do you need?
Sure,
Because sometimes we get inundated of too many things.
Yes.
So it's a good idea to call ahead and ask and just swing by and check us out.
One of the things I do know about the Outreach Center in general, here located in Haverhill, Massachusetts, is that my fellow veterans that I break bread with on a regular basis, that those who stayed in Haverhill and choose to make Haverhill their home seem to be a little better off than my fellow veterans that are in other communities. I think it's the layout of the town, the way we have the little mini bus system, gets the guys around the grocery store. You know, you can go up to Target on the bus and a few things locally. You can get downtown to some of the, there's a butcher shop down there and some a little bitty bric-a-brac stores. The guys can go shopping, so they don't really need a vehicle to get around town. Plus, I believe that because we have veterans and a community with an outreach center, and those who are affiliated with the outreach center, I must say, seem to be better off, and I know this to be true. I'm one of them. Yourself. Now, what advice would you give to the folks at home who may be watching about a fellow veteran coming home to, you know, we can't always wait till everybody's sad and lonely to help them. There has to be some intervention prior to. What would the family members what do they look for? What can they see amongst their now veteran son or daughter that would be able to, you know, help out a little bit? What's the tips they need to look for?
Well, first of all, I was, you know, what you were saying earlier, Massachusetts is just a great state for veterans and veteran services, and Haverhill's an ideal location, and our organization is top-notch.
Sure is.
As far as these type of organizations go, and that comes from a good board of directors and a good executive director. And to answer your question, if somebody's coming, I met a young fella that just came back, and he didn't think that he needed any services, and I invited him over for lunch, and he hung out for a little bit. And just to be part of the organization, maybe, you know, if he's just getting back, he's got to acclimate back to civilian life. I would, you know, a veteran is not your entire identity. You're a son, you're a brother, you're a husband. It's part of who you are, and it's something that'll follow you for the rest of your life. And it's great just to go over and be part of an organization and pitch in and volunteer, and you know, you can learn from the experience of others of some of the services that are available.
Exactly, experience from others, correct?
Yeah, so you can learn from the experience of others of some of the services that may or may not be available. And if we can save somebody an ounce of time, then that's one of the things we try to do.
Well, Jimmy, I'm going to throw you under the bus. I'm going to tell everybody at home. A veteran that we know came up to the veterans home not too long ago, and he had some issues, and he sat with you at the table, and you introduced him to someone else. And he came back. He was homeless, living in someone's house. And I recently seen him in Boston at the Causeway last Friday. And he had told me that he was able to get to Court Street, and he got on a housing program. And 3 months ago, in the midst of the summer, when you met him, and you sent him on a path. And then he left, and we didn't hear anything back from him, like always, for some guys. I ran into him, and he told me that he's got into a housing program, and that he will be soon to be housed out in Lynn. And without saying his name, the fella, and we got to give you a special thanks for that, Jimmy, because I didn't even tell you, but he told me to tell you thank you, and I want to let everybody know that, you know, that happened. That's one of the things where he came into us, or he came into you all at the outreach center, and asked for help. And you never say no. Sometimes we say not now. We got to figure stuff out for you. And you set him on a path, and he actually followed that path that you set him on. And less than 6 months from now, I think January, February, he's going to get his unit. And that goes to show that he came back a second time, and you kept him going, you fed him, you kept him up there, you made sure he had a meal, you gave him comfort care. That's one of the things that you do that you don't realize for some of the guys that come in despondent. And one of the reasons we asked you to be in the show today, Jimmy, is because the comfort care that doesn't seem to happen for many people when you go to the big VA hospital, you're just a number, let's face it. When you go to Veteran Services, they try to help you the best they can. But it's really the one-on-one and the open space and a sandwich and a coffee that comfort care comes from. Somebody not yelling at you to say, you know, I did this, I did that, look at me, I can make it, you can do it as well. That goes a long way. A lot of the doctors and clinicians that we deal with, they're not veterans, and they're college-educated folks. They have their plights of their own, with what they have to pay, loans for schooling and all that stuff. But they don't have the same lived experience. So when this particular veteran came in with his lived experience, and you just set him on his way and you told him a little about what you've been doing, I think that resonates more with some of the veterans on Veterans Helping Veterans. And that's where the peer support came in, where you became, you actually did your job that day, your peer support specialist. you took this fella, you listened to what he said, and you sent him on a path, and he actually followed the path. So that was a good thing. And you know, that's the little stories we don't hear. Just like you were saying, the older couple that came up at St. Rita's, to them it's always St. Rita's. It's not the Outreach Center, it's not VNOC. And they, I believe he's 88 and she's 86. They got married at St. Rita's years ago.
You should get them on the show.
Yeah, right. And they came up there, and they got married in there, and that was their life here in Haverhill. And now the church went out of business, and it was abandoned, and then the veterans took it over, and now people are coming back from the community, coming in there. You're giving them a food pantry. You're giving them stuff to eat when they're there. Again, when it comes to donations, you can't just get a bunch of used stuff. You need gently worn clothing, stuff that you would want someone to wear proudly, not something with rips and tears and grease stains, correct? Something that the veterans can actually put on. Not every veteran can even go out and buy stuff, and then the oddity sizes.
Well, it's good to hear about the fellow that's doing well, and you know, if it wasn't me, it would have been somebody else.
I don't know.
We have a great staff up there, and there's
We
nothing
do.
there's
There
nothing
is.
anybody up there wouldn't do to help a veteran in need of services.
Yeah, I know, but I think that particular day when he came in, he was very sad and lonely. We seen it in his eyes, and you set him on a path, and you worked with him for 10 days, I know, and you made him believe in himself, and he took that. I seen him freshly shaved, clean cut. He praised you. But yes, you know, here in Merrimack Valley, it's very patriotic. We have so many things going our way as veterans that people aren't really tapping into. And I believe the reason some of them don't tap into it is because they don't know about it. And one of the reasons that the folks here at HC Media had given us Let's Talk Vets Talk is to promote some of these programs. Now, every veteran has different status. Some are combat veterans. They get a little different stuff than a peacetime veteran. And there are categories of discharge which regulate what your services really are. But the most part is the veteran themselves, is it not? Veterans must stand up for themselves more and more, because if they don't come in and ask, if they don't come in and seek, if they don't come in and utilize, then you could have a million programs. We need more and more to get the veterans' families involved in the back door way, if you will. To call up, say, hey, I got this kid, I got my daughter, we need to be able what advice can you give me that'll allow us to make a difference in life without picking on that new veteran. You know, we got 22, 23-year-old kid, and they just left Iraq or Afghanistan with all their buddies, now they're on their mom's couch or something. How do we make it so we're not picking on that particular veteran and just giving them the information that they need?
Well, sometimes with veterans, there's a sense of pride, or maybe false pride, where they're just too proud to ask for help. And then time goes on, and then sometimes they get caught in a progressive illness, and things go from bad to worse. So what's going on right now is, you know, we welcome new people home, and make them aware of services that are available.
Well, you do a wonderful job at that, that's for sure. You know, what's your hope that we can, what's your hope that you're going to try to do here? We got a 24-month period, say. In the next 24 months, what's our hope that we can get more folks involved? What's your goal to bring them in? What are you trying to do?
Well, we can't force anybody in the door.
Sure.
But Massachusetts has done a great job of, you know, we got a welcome home bonus.
Welcome home
Other
bonus.
states don't do that.
Sure.
And that's been going back since Desert Storm. And I think they go through a pretty good indoctrination of what's available. But the education's the key. We have a program at the Outreach for people where they can get their GED. Northern Essex Community College is a great place to start. They help me a lot.
And you can take public transportation.
The bus goes right there.
Right there. Drops you off in front of the building, right?
Right.
So all the crooked leg veterans can get on the bus and get off
Sure.
right there. Wonderful.
So
So education, and all aspects. We have education and veteran services. We have education and outreach services. We need education for our families at home to understand that their fellow veteran, or their son or daughter, or even later in life, there might be a gal who's married to a Vietnam vet, or vice versa, that needs some services. But I got to tell you,
I would suggest, make them aware of the services that are available, use them for the purpose in which they were intended,
sure,
and move on and make them available for somebody else behind you that might need them as well. And instead of making it a lifestyle,
yeah,
use it for what it was intended for, move on, and use your experience to help somebody
sure, that's
behind
it,
you.
right?
And pay it forward.
Don't pass the buck, pass the knowledge.
Yeah, right, because what the outreach did for me, I can never pay them back
Sure,
monetarily.
right?
But what I do in my day-to-day activities is a way of paying it back.
Wonderful.
Paying it forward.
Well, I heard a story about nurses from Vietnam. And what's happened was they got out of the service, and then they went to work in the hospitals, and they work in triage. So there's a lot of going on. Well, now they're at the age of retirement, and now they're in their early 60s, and they're starting to retire. The kids are gone. They're not in work anymore. Triage isn't there. And for some of these nurses, the PTSD is starting to set in after all these years. They're of age. We need to get some of the knowledge out there for those. We need young people to understand. If your mom, particularly, was a nurse during Vietnam, you need to question her and ask her if she needs help or how she's doing. Do it in a kind, gentle manner, not to pick on her, but see where she's standing. Don't just say, hey, Mom, how you doing? Say, Mom, I know you're a veteran. Have you thought about going to get some help down there? I know you didn't do it for years. Or, well, maybe not. Would you like to volunteer? Maybe you could bring them in to volunteer, and when they come in to volunteer, they'll find out what kind of services might be available to them. And there's more and more women's groups nowadays than there were before. And that's something else. That's in my heart, I really focus on a lot of the women's groups because I find them to be sadly neglected. Not that the VA's not doing their part or the neighborhoods aren't doing their part, but the women veterans aren't getting their own self-support that they got.
Well, we're seeing more and more of that, and we also have more women on our staff up there, and there's never a bad word between anybody. It's just a well-oiled machine. Everybody gets along very well.
Yes, I think so.
And we're seeing a lot more women coming in for services, and we have more women on our staff, which is nice.
All right, well, we're about to wrap it up here, Jim. 30 seconds, tell us what you want in the future, what's going on, what's happening.
Well, I look forward to being part of the outreach and enjoying the holidays. Lovely tree, lovely tree you have there,
wonderful.
Steve. And just thanks for having me and let me share a little bit about my experience here in the Merrimack Valley and being part of this organization.
Well, again, I'd like to thank you for being here, and it's a great thing. I know you helped me a lot. Almost everybody that's been on my show here, or on this show, I like to think of it not my show, but a collective part that I've gotten a lot of help. But in closing, I must tell you, and tell the nice folks at home, hopefully they're watching, that, my name is Steve. I'm not a doctor nor a clinician. I'm merely a veteran, trying to help veterans. The fine folks here at HC Media has given us this opportunity to at least get some kind of word out that there are services for our folks here in Merrimack Valley. Between Veteran Services, there's a satellite VA hospital downtown, and there's the Veterans Northeast Outreach Center, as well as the other VFWs and so forth, that if they go in there, they can come on up. So again, till next time, America, we'd like to say thank you, and please be kind to everyone you meet, for they too have troubles. Bye-bye.
They all love me, it's very lovely, but oh, how I hate to get up in the morning. Oh, how I'd love to remain in bed, for the hardest blow of all is to hear the bugler call. You gotta get up, you gotta get up, you gotta get up this morning. Someday I'm going to murder the bugler. Someday they're going to find him dead.